All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Optimize You podcast, the place where we're providing value to you and everything regarding your health and wellness to improve that, to make sure that we are helping provide information to improve the most optimal version of you. So today we have a Q&A lined up. Alex and myself. Alex, what's going on, my man?
What up, dude? Doing well. Beautiful here. Moving down to Arizona. And I guess when we're recording in a few weeks, I'll be on 2 weeks from today as we're recording. I will be down on the way to Arizona. So
Arizona living.
Yeah. So we'll be in the same time zone for a little while while we record.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I think you will be getting some decent weather, right? Hopefully it's cooled down from that huge heat wave that they had. I know it was as high as like in the teens, like 100. I think one of the days was 118. I talked to somebody. Crazy.
Down there. It was like 116 when I went down there with my dad to lock in on the place. And so it's I think it's more like 100 now, which is a lot more bearable.
That's doable. And you're going to be right on the golf course, huh?
Dude, the place is sick. Right on the golf course, right in the mountains, like kind of surrounded by some mountains as well. So it's a nice spot. I'm really pumped
That's awesome
to get that and just like get away from the winter for a year, see how that feels, see how I enjoy it. And, worst case scenario, you end back where you started, but you got to venture outside the comfort zone here and there to test some new places.
Absolutely, dude. I can't wait to come down and play some golf with you. Get some coffee, maybe shoot a pod and have some fun, dude.
Yeah, we're going to do live. We'll do a few live ones for sure. We'll have to get you down there, this year, early next year, something like that. Get you down.
Yep.
Do some live pods. Those would be all.
We got to get you up here too and get some fishing in. We'll get some live pods here in the office. So, hell yeah. Well, cool, man. Let's go over some Q&As today. These are the top 10 most common things that people struggle with. I know I've seen them personally with myself and my journey, and a lot of my clients do as well. So our goal here is to provide you guys with at least one, maybe two actionable steps and not just any actionable steps. Literally the first thing that we would say, hey, if we were coaching you, we'd have you implement this right away to be able to work through XYZ, whatever scenario or speed bump that we're going to bring up here. So the first one is lack of motivation. I hear this one a lot. So what would you say, or your advice in terms of a tangible step that somebody would do if their number one problem or struggle is their lack of motivation?
Well, I think first off, I would say with motivation, you got to understand, you got to be aware that motivation isn't something that's just going to sprout out of nowhere. You're not just going to be sitting on the couch eating chips and you're going to get motivation. It's something, the best thing I've heard, and I think I've said this on the podcast, is from Jim Quick. He talks about motivation isn't something that you get all of a sudden. It's something you do by taking action. And so my simple action step for somebody here would be to figure out one thing that you can do every day that's going to move you forward and to do that. Right. I think this is the best way to develop discipline, is to commit to one thing. Maybe for you, it's drinking a certain amount of water, right? Start there. Drink a certain amount of water and commit to doing that every day. That's going to start to develop discipline. You're going to be taking action towards your goals. And that's the first step to really creating motivation. It's actually going to stick.
I love that. And it's in the process of creating. So that's number one. You guys pick one thing that you will be able to create some momentum with, and you'll find that in turn, as you create momentum, the motivation will just come. I would add to that is, I think words are super important. So what I would also recommend for the second tip here would be, everybody's waiting for motivation to take action. Just switch those two. Right. So take action and then you'll get motivated. And when you can do that and you kind of just do that little word play and shift in your head, you'll start to understand things become easier. Momentum and motivation will start to be more present the more you take action. I think people are just waiting around, waiting to get struck by this wave of motivation to be able to do their workout, to start eating healthy, to start living a certain way. It's like, just start right now with what you got, take that action, and you'll start to get these like little small incremental wins. And all of a sudden, here comes that momentum. Here comes the motivation. So instead of waiting to be motivated to take action, switch them, take action to be motivated.
It's like what you say, start sloppy, right?
Yeah, dude, start sloppy.
Exactly what it is. Just
You know,
start.
it's so funny. I had to write that down the other day because I was feeling myself in a rut, finding myself distracting, procrastinating like fucking crazy, dude. I'm top. If you could win an award for it, I'd be the top procrastinator, right? And I found myself doing that, and I was like, man, it's funny. I looked down at my notes here that I had on a notebook, and the first thing that I saw was start sloppy, and I was like, boom, snapped right into it. So I had to take my own advice there. It's not just things that I say. I actually have to take my own advice too.
Oh yeah, dude.
Next one. So cool. We have two tangible steps there. The next one would be, I hear this one a lot, is time constraints. What do you say to the people that use an excuse as I don't have time?
I'm gonna flip it on you. You do first one here. Let's alternate first. First
Okay,
ones.
cool. I think that first of all, it's a bullshit excuse. So the second you can realize that and go, I am just feeding myself bullshit right now, and come to a high level of awareness, that is step number one. I think self accountability is huge. If you find yourself telling yourself, I don't have time. We've seen people, Ryan came on a couple podcasts ago. He had a client that literally has 10 kids and she was able to lose 20 or 30 pounds. I think it was 30 plus, maybe even 40 pounds. Like, people can do it, right? People at the highest level CEOs who you think have zero time. One of the things that has got them to where they are right now currently and continue to get there, there's a common theme between them, and they all work on their health and fitness because they all want to extend their life and longevity and their ability to have the success that they have. So if those people can do it, if people with less resources can do it than you, there's got to be some commonality there. And it all starts with staring yourself in the mirror, and I would say calling out your own bullshit. That would be the step one that I would have somebody, if I'm, when I coach people, that's the first thing that we do is like, call yourself out on your own bullshit. Then we can go through the tangibles and the X's and O's and look at your schedule together and figure out where we can plug time in. But I think the first thing that I would tell somebody is understand that you're telling yourself a lie.
It's clearly bullshit. I think that's the worst excuse ever. Whenever I tell myself that I don't have time, I catch myself right there and I'm like, fuck you. Like, you have time. You have time. You remember you're on Netflix, you watched that movie, you were scrolling on Instagram, like all this bullshit. And I think that kind of builds out, like Ryan also talked about having people do a time on it. Right. And I think that could be a good thing. Like if you seriously think you have no time, do a time on it. And write down everything you do for the day and figure out where the gaps are, because, this could be coming from somebody who really thinks they have no time. Right. And so like the awareness piece is always a lot of times going to be the first step for a lot of people, is just kind of that awareness. Oh shit, I do have time. And I think what can provide that is just by looking through your day and truly like figuring out what things are serving you throughout your day, what things aren't serving you. How can you double down on the things that are serving you? And how can you remove the things that aren't serving you to be able to put in place maybe a workout or maybe a walk or maybe some more sleep or whatever it may be that you're trying to input to get healthier, to lose weight, to find more time for the gym, whatever goal you have. I think that that's a huge thing that I believe Ryan brought up as well that can help those people who truly do think that they don't have time.
Yeah, that's a great one. So those are the two actionable steps. Call yourself out on your own bullshit, and then replace things that you're already currently doing, plug it in with something that's productive for you, right? Those are the two actionable steps that if you are somebody that says that, oh, I don't have time, right? You got to have that self-awareness. And then also, to Alex's point, have an actionable plan. And he told you a perfect one. Just sub it in there, look at your schedule, self-assess, and you can start to notice that, oh, maybe I do have time. The next one is poor diet choices. What would your advice be, or tangible action step to somebody that takes or makes poor diet choices? And let's just say, for the sake of argument, they're aware that they do it. What would be their first action steps to help fix that or solve it?
That's a good one. I'm trying to think of like the best tip for somebody like this.
I think I'll go first while you're thinking. The first thing that comes to my mind is I like having people, anybody that joins my program, I have them write out the next 7 days of what they ate, right? And I'm sure you do something similar too. I do 7 days so that we also include weekend days on there. And we like to take a look at not only the quantity, the amount that you're eating. And by the way, you have to be very transparent with this. You have to be very honest with yourself when you're doing this exercise. For the next 7 days, log everything. If you use MyFitnessPal, great. If you just want to literally physically write it down in a journal, that's cool too. But the item that you're eating and then the quantity of it, and then we'll calculate calories together. We'll kind of take a look at that. when you do that, and I'm talking about include, if you're having 3 glasses of wine, a Snickers bar, some cheese pizza, like you need to write all of it. And it's important that you don't change anything that you're currently doing right now. So that would be the first action step, because from there, we can assess your entire 7 days. And then you can take, as the client or as the individual who's struggling with this, you can take the accountability in and circle the first things that you want to start on that you are willing to change. Like, what do you want to change first? That's what I always ask people is what's the first thing? This is what you're eating right now. Obviously, we want to go in a different direction. We want to make some change here. What are some things that you want to change first? Like, what stands out to you? Like, oh, well, man, I noticed that I have 5 glasses of wine here throughout the 7 days. I know it's going to be tough for me. I'd like to go 0. And then that's where I come in as a coach and help them, like, let's go 3. Let's see if you can do 2 to 3 this week. Right. And we just start to do very gradual, progressive action steps towards improving their food quality and their food choices. But I put it on the individual. It's very easy when you can see log 7 days, see the quality of food that you're eating, and then let the individual, the person that created that food log, have some self accountability and just ask them, like, what do you want to change first? Like, what stands out to you right away? And 9 times out of 10, they're going to circle certain things that really stand off the board to them. Because look, most people know, right? Most people are going to know that if they're eating a lot of processed shit, they can circle those things that, man, I think this one's doing the most damage, despite it being my favorite right now and probably hardest one to get rid of. They have the ability and power to circle those things. So people know, but it just sometimes has to be right there in front of you. So logging those 7 days and putting it on paper or logging it in a MyFitnessPal app can be very powerful. So that would be the first actionable step I'd have somebody do that'll actually get the ball rolling with them. What about you?
I like that. And I'll build on even a different playing field than what you're saying there. Kind of the opposite of what you said at the start, or not the opposite, but just something to build on. I love the awareness piece. I think that's huge. Awareness. A lot of times people don't even understand that they're eating all of this processed foods, all of these unquality thing or less quality foods. Maybe that they're drinking as much as they are, or that they're drinking as much, Mountain Dew as they are, or, all these different things. So I think the awareness piece is huge. But I would say the next step for me would be not necessarily to get rid of those things, but what I like to have people do is to add more quality foods in through more protein or more veggies. I think that's kind of or more fruits and veggies, right? More protein or more fruits and veggies. Like I think it's the easiest way. And I come from a place of like having struggles reducing the stuff that I was eating that I didn't want to eat, but then making it so much easier on me when I was like, you know what, I'm going to focus on increasing my protein, right? And then that decreased the amount of like less quality stuff I was eating, or, I'm going to have a few more servings of fruits and veggies throughout the day. And then that decreased some of the less quality shit that I was eating. And a lot of the other reasons why that happens is because it's going to help you stay fuller, right? You increase that protein, you're going to stay a little bit fuller. You're not going to necessarily be hungry for all of those candy bars that maybe you eat, or all that, that wine or beer or whatever the hell you got going on. No judgment. But just, protein, fruits and veggies. Think about adding versus subtracting. And I found that can work a lot better for some people. Not to say that the whole subtracting can't work for some people, but I think that more people seem to benefit from who I've worked with the addition of quality foods as opposed to the subtraction of less quality foods.
100%. And you guys will notice too, you feel a lot different, a lot better when all of a sudden you remove this processed shit and you include high quality single ingredient foods, prioritize protein. You're going to notice a difference right away. And body fat is going to start to come off you too. You're going to start to feel less inflamed, less bloated, less feel like shit. And the cool thing with that is when you do it over an extended period of time and you gradually include some of those things that you used to, it's going to hit you differently, right? You're not going to have a full diet that is including a bunch of sugar and processed shit. And when you do that for a while, and then all of a sudden you include some of those things, it's going to hit you a little bit harder. You're going to feel bloated. You're not going to have as big a stomach as you once did to be able to digest some of those things. And like, you're going to be able to kind of have those things in moderation much easier because you understand how they make you feel and the consequences that come with them from that aspect when you choose to eat those processed things. It's not saying eliminate them, but when you include them after you've been eating pretty darn clean and prioritizing high nutrient dense, single ingredient quality foods that are with an adequate amount of protein, like, man, you'll feel night and day difference. So hopefully those steps help you guys. Alex, what about plateauing, man? So I hear this a lot. Actually, the clients that end up having the biggest turnarounds and crush it in my program specifically first initially come to me and say that they have hit some sort of plateau, whether it's from a nutritional standpoint, whether it's from a progress standpoint in their strength and their muscle building and progression on the physical side of things. What's your feedback to those people? What's a tangible step they can do if somebody's running into a plateau?
Yeah. And I first just want to say, like, a plateau for those people out there is not 1 week of not seeing
Yeah.
progress, right? Like,
let's be clear on that.
yeah, I always like to challenge people on plateaus because I think that a lot of times people will say, like, oh, the scale didn't go down for a week. And the the thing I want to get through to people is that put as many forms of measurement out there as possible, because like a plateau would be, not seeing inches off, not seeing the scale go down, not seeing, body composition changes, strength gains for, like, I think 4 weeks, right?
For
Once you
sure.
kind of get to that 4 week point and you're like, oh shit, for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, I haven't seen anything on that side, plateau. Before then, stay consistent. And my advice would be for people who are experiencing a plateau, a true plateau, is to dial your shit back in and to really figure out, are you actually, on your shit, on your tracking? Because I know for me, even like when I don't track, I haven't tracked in a while, to be honest. I just don't really want to do that right now. I'm focusing on other stuff. But it's a really good, when I do go into like wanting to lose weight or wanting to build muscle, it's important to track. I don't have those kind of goals right now. But when you're tracking, a lot of times it can get like monotonous over time and you can start to slack and think that you know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe you start slipping in some other foods that you're not tracking. Like, I think that the best thing for people to do is to increase their intention, right? To really start to be as intentional as possible, track every single thing for another week, 2 weeks, and like get back on it. Cause I think that, being really dialed in with that is going to fix a lot of those, and being dialed in with everything, right? Dialing in your sleep, dialing in like the habits that you've built. A lot of times these things can slip, and we've talked about intention on the podcast. That's what I would call this. Increase your intention with tracking, increase your intention with the things that maybe you're going through the motions with. And a lot of times I think that fixes most plateaus.
I mean, you hit it on the head. I'm not even going to add another extra point because that's exactly what it is. I would say the second you can realize that chances are you're not hitting a plateau, it's your attention to detail. It's very easy to get lackadaisical with things, get in the motions. You've been eating a consistent amount of calories and you've been hitting your protein targets. And before you know it, you've been adding some snacks here and some nibbles there and snacking off your kids' plates there. Or you've been super diligent for 5 days. And then, let's say your caloric intake is 2,000 for your goal. And then on the weekends, you're hitting 3,000, 3,500. And you're very loosely tracking on those weekends. Well, you just undid what you did for those 4 weeks, right? Now you just balanced out and you're probably going to gain weight, right? And so a lot of times I think it's the attention to detail with monitoring your intake. 9 times out of 10, that's what it is it's attention to detail. Or let's say, and give somebody the benefit of the doubt, they are tracking very diligently. They're measuring everything, sauces, coffee creamers, like they're on top of it. If that's the case and everything's accounted for, the next thing that I look at is their energy expenditure, right? So how honest are you with the amount of energy that you're expending in a day? Are you going through the motions and just checking the boxes on your workout? Or are you actually sticking to the prescribed intensity that is allotted for you on the program? Meaning when you finish your last rep, do you feel like you're struggling to maybe get 1, 2, maybe 3 more reps at the most? That's a good quality set. That's a working set. If you're just going through and you're doing the motions and you're checking the box, your energy expenditure is going to be a lot less. If you're lying to yourself on how many steps you're accumulating in a day because you want to impress your coach and you're just putting a certain number down, an arbitrary number that you think you're ballparking that number. Again, it comes back to the attention to detail. Like truly submit information to your coach that is accurate and precise as possible. And I know Ryan has talked about this too, and it's right along the lines of what you and I are saying right here is I think we all kind of preach the 80-20, like 80% single ingredient whole foods, 20% you have extreme flexibility, include the foods you love. If you're quote unquote hitting a plateau, why not bump it up to 100% for the next couple of weeks, right? Just go single ingredient whole foods, eliminate all the processed shit, and then see what happens. Again, in that process, be diligent with your tracking. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to go, oh, I wasn't tracking as accurately as I should have. Or, man, I wasn't really eating 80% single ingredient whole foods and 20% having some flexibility. It was more like 60-40 or it's 50-50. And the inflammation from the processed shit forces your body weight to fluctuate up, or, the higher carbohydrate and not prioritizing your protein comes with more water retention. So the scale stabilizing or even potentially going up, right? All these little things go into it. So I think it's just assessing how diligent you are, to Alex's point, how intentional are you with your tracking, and how honest are you with your workouts? And for me, I like to measure energy expenditure in steps. So how honest are you with those things? Are you actually hitting those targets, or are you just writing them down and like jotting them down, or guessing and like ballparking stuff?
Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing that you said also that I thought of that didn't necessarily 100% relate to this, but I'm sure somebody could get benefit from out there is you talked about the weekends ruining people's progress, right? Or, making it so they're in a plateau, which is not actually a plateau because they're just eating more food than they think they are,
Yeah.
right? I think that happens a lot in calorie deficits too, where you got to be on it, right? Because like any sort of high weekend or like big night out could easily bring you back to maintenance, right? Like where you're in a calorie deficit, you're eating in a 500 calorie deficit Monday through Friday, and then Saturday you have this huge day where you bring yourself fully out of the deficit, and you increase that, and maybe not fully bringing yourself out of the deficit, but to your point as well, eating a lot more shit, increasing that inflammation, maybe increasing that water, that water retention just through extra carbs, through extra processed sugars, through extra alcohol, all of that stuff that can happen. So that's just another caveat to not a plateau, but
I want to
more or less.
piggyback off that real quick before we move on, because that's a great point. So if you do Monday through Friday, and we put these, I'm huge in data and percentages, and we want an A+ body, right? We want A+ results. If you track Monday through Friday, 5 days out of the week, 2 days, you don't log anything, right? You just shit the bed. You think you're intuitive eating. Well, that 5 out of 7 is a 71%, right? And who knows how far you actually went over on those other 2 days where you weren't tracking. So you're putting in a 71% data effort, right? And expecting a 95 to 99. You want A to A+ effort. And so keep that in mind. Like, yes, it doesn't seem like a lot just to not track 2 days, but it's 71%. And anytime you look at the data, the numbers won't lie. And so that's why I'm a huge fan of like, look at the data, look at the numbers. And that's where you can look at things for face value and be like, okay, I'm either doing the thing or I'm not. And you can remove any emotional attachment to your diligence in the process. And then it makes it really easy. You just go, oh, I'm putting in 71% effort here. That's a C-. I'm borderline D on my effort here, right? And the things that I'm putting in by logging 5 out of 7 days and shitting the bed on the other 2. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but those little things, when you do them and you're actually diligent in your process, those can help you break through your quote unquote plateau that you think you're having. So 9 times out of 10, you're not having a plateau. It's just an attention to detail thing. All right. Next one is injury risk, overexerting or improper form during exercises. This is one for people who are hesitant in performing exercises. They're afraid that, I don't want to train a certain way. I don't want to get injured. Or have you dealt with that, or have you experienced that yourself, or would you be able to give any feedback or tangible steps for people who think that way?
I don't know if I'm best suited for this one, to be honest. I'll put this one back on you because I know that you're like, this is your jam and something you deal with. I wouldn't say that this is my like forte.
So a lot of people come, and what I have on my intake form for clients is the first thing that pops up is what kind of equipment do you have access to? Also, what's your experience level? Training age is a real thing. So there's going to be a workout that I prescribe for somebody that has a different training age. And all I mean by training age is years that you've been performing some sort of resistance training or strength training. If it's zero, it's zero. I'm going to start that person totally different than somebody who has 1, 3, 5+ years of training age experience. It also comes down to what equipment you have access to. If somebody has a home gym and they're limited on the amount of dumbbells they have, let's say they have some 10s, 15s, and 20s, or maybe they just have one set of 20s. I have one client that had a weighted jump rope and like crushed it, right? And did a lot of calisthenics. So it really depends what you have access to equipment wise, what your training age is, and that'll determine what I kind of lay out for that individual and prescribe based on where they're currently at and where it is that they want to go. Like if you're starting from scratch, I'm going to have you do a lot of body weight stuff. I'm going to have you do a lot of dowel or PVC or empty barbell work. And before we even get to the barbell work, I'm probably going to have you do a lot of light dumbbell stuff. So, and making sure, and I have video demonstrations on my program too, and I'm sure you do as well, but making sure that the clients send me their videos is super important to me because I always love giving feedback and critiquing form because obviously we coach remote, so it's hard for me to give feedback to somebody that I don't see in person. And as long as you do that and you always prioritize form and functionality over the intensity or load that you're trying to lift, this is mostly for guys. Girls don't necessarily have a problem with this, but the guys are like, I want to lift what my buddy's lifting, or I want to lift what I lifted back in college. And, and so that's where injuries occur. And so if anybody is hesitant jumping into a strength or resistance program, you're looking at the very small look. We're not just, sitting on the couch. There is going to be risk for injury, right? But when you come into it and you approach it, instead of looking at, the glass half empty, look at all the benefits you get. Look at it from half full just by engaging and learning proper form and technique and building a solid foundation. That's the one huge takeaway from this is how solid can you build your foundation so that you can lift for years, for the rest of your life. This is like an ongoing thing, or at least should be if your goal is to improve your health and fitness and longevity. So build a foundation, move well. If you have the opportunity to work with a coach and get some feedback and send them video, always shoot a profile video. So a side view of you doing the movement, which is much easier for us to coach. Man, you can get some quick instant feedback and fix things mechanically and make sure you're moving in the correct movement patterns so that you're not moving incorrectly and adding more weight and further facilitating and strengthening a shitty pattern that we have to go back and undo. That takes a lot of work. So those of you that are like brand new, you actually have the upper hand because we don't have to undo a lot of bad patterns that you've developed over years, right? So when you're starting fresh, we can kind of hit the ground running and we can start from scratch and we can make sure you start with the correct movement right off the bat. So that's what I would recommend is get somebody that can get some eyes on you and give you some quality feedback. And that way you make sure you build that foundation and you just move really well. Move well over everything. If you do that, the weight will come. If you try to outpace that and move heavier weight, yes, your risk for injury drastically skyrockets.
Yeah. Slow and controlled, right? I think that's the big thing is just, I know I've had my struggles with trying to just dry hump the fucking weight and push up as much fucking shit as I can, try to impress everybody in the gym when nobody gives a fuck. Right. Like, and so that's a huge thing is just to really like slow and controlled, right? Like just like the slower you can do. And also that's going to make less weight feel heavier too. And so you're going to, like, you're also going to decrease your injury risk by taking less dumbbells and just like a set of 10 of dumbbell bench or whatever, like doing like slow, like 3 second down, 3 second up reps is going to make that feel like 30 pounds probably feel super difficult for somebody who can do 70, 80 pounds dumbbells on the bench. So like that would be just my addition to that would just be slow and controlled. But like I said, I mean, I prescribe, workouts for my clients. They're pretty basic. They're based on what they have, equipment wise. Like you said, it's based on what they have experience level wise, but I don't dive too deep into that side of things. I'm more or less focusing on the mindset, the nutrition side of things. And then I'm giving them some stuff that's going to be customized to what they can do and what works best for them. but that personally for me is not something that I like am the most experienced in. It's more or less for me. I took a NASM certification, and then I just have 10, 12 years of lifting experience that I've used to do that.
Which, by the way, don't discredit yourself. That's phenomenal. That's more than enough. So if you guys are listening to this and you want to get some feedback and you're looking for somebody to get it from, my guy is more than qualified over here. He's just being humble.
I
So,
appreciate it.
all right, man. Lack of support. Or excuse me, let me back up. Lack of knowledge is our next one. That's one thing that people say. Many people struggle with not knowing what exercises to do, what foods to eat to achieve their specific fitness goals. What would your advice be if somebody claims they have a lack of knowledge? We kind of talked about it in this previous one, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is something very difficult in anything, right? Because there's so much out there on the web. Google. Yeah. You can Google whatever you want. You're going to get an answer that supports whatever you think is right, right? Like you're always going to be able to hit whatever side you're biased to. If you put the question in a certain way, you'll get a certain answer, right? That's kind of the way I think of it as. And so what I would say to this person is it's always going to be the basics, right? I think that like this, everybody knows what works in the end, right? Like everybody knows that we could talk about it all day. We've talked about it many times. Get fucking sleep, drink water, quality foods for anybody out there who doesn't know, like your fish, your meat, your unprocessed or no antibiotic meats, the fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds, beans and lentils, whole grains, stuff like that is going to fall into your whole foods. Try to have 80% or even 70% of your weekly calories, right? Don't stress on the day, the weekly calories coming from those. Get some movement in, get some sort of exercise in. All of these different things are going to go a long way. And that stuff's pretty easy to do. You don't have to, you can start with one of them, start with hydration, right? Start with going to bed a little bit earlier. Start with going on a walk. Like these simple things, you might think you have a lack of knowledge. It's more or less, you're looking for the magic button. That's what I think. Like if you, like people, like their lack of knowledge is more or less like instant gratification and really just trying to like do that perfect thing that's going to like transform them in the shortest period of time, which is what makes a lot of struggles for people. So I would just challenge people to understand that's what you're doing, probably understand that it doesn't take, that there's no crazy shit that me and Matt are giving people. Like we're giving people the basics, just what I talked about there. And the only addition would be like stress management, right? Like, that's probably the only addition I didn't say there, but like those are the basics. Simplify the shit out of your plan. Don't try to do too much. Do 2 to 3 things a day out of that list that I just said there, and you're going to be just fine.
Yeah, do it consistently. And if you do crush that out of the park and you still want extra help and you can prove to yourself that you're doing the fundamentals and you're doing the basics like we're talking about, then it might be time for you to upgrade and get a coach, right? Like if you feel like you really are truly stuck and you followed all the basics that Alex just talked about right there and you do them to a consistent level to where you're like, okay, I need more. I'm looking for more. I'm seeking more. And you're not just trying to find a shortcut, man, you're probably ready for a coach. Right? Because now you can condense your knowledge and your learning curve and you can put your trust into somebody that like, and trust and has been there before and has proven to do it with people time and time again. Like get yourself a coach. That's what Alex and I do. We have coaches for what we do. And there's Tiger Woods still has a golf coach. Like there's no level that you can achieve that like if you're just starting out, don't feel like, a coach isn't for everybody. It's like if you have the ability to have self-discipline and get yourself to specific levels, that's great. That even shows Alex and I, when you choose to come on with somebody like us, we're like, man, they actually did stuff on their own and they have some sort of baseline that they're not starting from scratch here. I love to work with those people because you don't have to like pat them on the ass to like try to motivate them to do stuff. They're more so like, hey, I just lack the knowledge. I want to make sure I'm doing the right stuff. And then those are the people that just do phenomenal. So I would encourage you to do that. Like what Alex is saying, pick a couple things, do them on a consistent basis. I don't have anything to add to that. I think you hit that one on the head. What about lack of support, man? That's a lot. That's a big one out here. So whether it's spouse, significant other, environment, would your feedback be to somebody that their support system, whether it's a workout buddy, what would you say to that person, regarding their support system?
I think it goes really back to a lot of the stuff we've talked about on this podcast before, where it comes down to realizing who you're surrounding yourself on a regular basis with, how they make you feel. I think you just talked about it on the podcast we just recorded as well, where, are the people around you that you're surrounding with, are they filling your cup up? Are they helping you move in the direction that you're trying to move? Are they moving with you, or at least a positive influence in your life? Like, I think that's huge. Like, a lot of times you see a lot of people surround themselves with the same people they've surrounded themselves with their whole life. And like, that's cool, but there's definitely going to be like people that just don't fit what you're doing anymore, right? They're like, they were there for a season of your life. You're trying to cling on to them because that's what you've known, but they're a negative influence. They're dragging you down, all these different things. So I would challenge people to really just look at who they're surrounding themselves with on a regular basis. Ask themselves, is this person a positive influence? Is this person helping me move forward towards where I'm trying to go? Are they coming along the ride with me? Or are they dragging me down? Are they negative? And if they are negative, if they are dragging you down, that's probably somebody you're going to want to limit your time with, maybe eliminate. You don't necessarily need to eliminate these people, but at least slowly get away from them, and make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who are moving in that same direction and trying to do the things that are going to help you get there. Cause that's a huge part. We talked about on the last podcast we recorded around happiness, like the connection in relationships is a huge part of that. And like, there's just certain people that anybody's been around where they're just so negative and it just drags you down and you're just so drained by the time you leave. Right. And you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, and it takes a while and it's very difficult. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, it's super difficult to do this, but it doesn't have to be that hard, right? Like, it's just a matter of just distance yourself from these people a little bit. You still can hang out with them, limit the time as much as possible. And I think you'll see a lot of a shift in you being able to move forward in a better way and you just having higher energy, more positive energy on a regular basis, which is really what everybody wants to feel.
I don't have anything to add to that, man. You guys that's a huge step there that I think people can grasp and use that to their advantage. Look, people are either going to be on your ship and going in the direction that you want to, or they're not. And you got to be okay with that. You're drawing a line in the sand. You're making a decision. Your road ahead is going to be uncomfortable. And the people who are around you and like you the way that you are and want to stay in that comfortability, in that familiar place, you might have to just leave them temporarily, right? You might have to just cut that cord. It's not that you have to like eliminate them completely out of your life, but hey, man, they're going to be an anchor and slow down your ship that's trying to set sail right now. You might have to cut them for a little bit, right? And if they come back around and they do see and prove that they can be there by your side, great. But I think being transparent and communicating to the people that are closest to you about that is really, really important. So everything Alex said I don't have anything to add to that. That's perfect.
I love it, dude. What do you think? I think that's probably for today. We can kind of keep the rest of these and then, move forward, do this in the future with another group of that. I think this was good. We hit a lot of good stuff here and we still have a few things we can talk about next time, like
for
sleep.
Sure.
I think you said was on there.
Yep. Sleep, financials, things like that. So we can dive into those too, but hopefully this was able to help. We gave you 1 or 2 at most actionable steps for you guys. And, we try not to overcomplicate it. We're truly giving those feedback and those tangible steps and actionable things and suggestions for you to do based on our experience, as if you were right in front of us and we were coaching you. Those are honest, like from the gut intuition responses. So if you guys actually practice and implement in any of those and you find success with them, we'd love to know. We'd love to hear back from you guys. On the flip side, if you have friends or family members or people closest to you, don't be afraid to share this with them. If you know they struggle with some of these things, share it with somebody that means the world to us. If you were to share this with somebody who you actually care about, who knows they want to improve and be better and actually make change, that means everything to Alex and I. That's why we do this, and to provide value for you guys. So remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you guys do have any questions, you always reach out to us on social media. You can shoot us an email. What's our email?
optimizeyoupodcast@gmail.com, I believe.
Boom. I believe. If not, just shoot. You guys find us on social media. I'm Fit with Matt.
Yeah.
His Alex is his name. So We love getting questions from you guys. We always love answering them. And if we can help in any way, who knows, maybe your question might be featured on the next pod.
Hell yeah. We appreciate you. Yeah, it's I think social media is probably the best way to get a hold of us. But we appreciate you watching and listening every week, and we'll be talking to you soon.
See ya.